Here we are with Raymond Keene. Hello, Raymond.
Hello, Nicholas.
You are chairman of Tony Buzan International, and you are also the Grand Cheese Master.
That's right. I think in Polish you say Archmistrz or
maybe yes,
something like that.
You are also the author of Tony Buzan biography, the book that you wrote
about Tony. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And I would like to ask you about your memories with Tony's, maybe some things that we would like to discover. You had Tony was your friend.
Yes, I first met him in 1991, which is what 32 years ago. Yeah. And I met him in London. He invited me to give a chess display at one of his lectures. So I took on 30 people at once as a display of mental strength. And he thought that activities like juggling, chess, memory demonstrations were proof of the power of the human brain. So he liked to include these things in his lectures for a company called Management Centre Europe. I don't know if they still exist. But that's where we first met, early 1991, in London at a Management Centre Europe lecture in the Churchill Hotel off Portman Square.
Okay. And after you were also the part of the championship and memory championship and the mind mapping championship.
Yes, what happened was that in the summer of 1991, a friend of Tony's in Rome announced that he was going to hold the first World Memory Championship. So we thought, well, we should go to that. But we should attend it, to support it. So we, waiting for details so we could book our air tickets, and nothing happened. And then the guy who was meant to be organising it gave an announcement, said he changed his mind and wasn't going to do it. So Tony said, well, we should do it. So I thought, yes, yes. How do we do it? He said, I don't know, Ray, you get on with it and organise it. So what I did was I looked in the Guinness Book of Records and I contacted every single person around the world who had any sort of memory record whatsoever, and I invited them to come to London on a weekend in December of that year, and we announced the first ever World Memory Championship. And 7 of them turned up. Dominic O'Brien won, and he went on to win 8 more championships, well, in fact, a total of 8 championships. And every year since then, we've managed to hold a World Memory Championship. So in spite of wars, COVID, disasters, tempests, storms, economic catastrophe, every year we've managed to hold a World Memory Championship since that one. We haven't missed a single year. And then Tony said, well, if we're doing a World Memory Championship, why don't we branch out into the other learning mental sports? Speed reading, and of course mind mapping, which Tony invented. So I thought, yes, Tony. But we did it, and we managed to put one together, the first one of each, in London in 1997 at the Royal Festival Hall. And we haven't succeeded in doing one of each of mind mapping and speed reading since then, because COVID was really too much of a problem. We just couldn't do it. But we've managed to do it for many years since then. And now here we are in Zielona Góra, and a fantastic event, and the best World Speed Reading and Mind Mapping Championships ever held.
Oh, thank you. And no, you were working with Tony a very long time. How was Tony when, during the events, it's one, but how was he every day?
Well, he was pretty much the same every day as he was during the event. He was hyper energetic, full of ideas, always pushing the barriers and the boundaries. You know, and he'd say, "Well, Ray, we have to do this," and I'd say, "Are you sure?" "Yes, yes, we can do it." I said, "But you know, it costs lots of money and it probably won't happen." And he said, "No, we must do it." And I remember on one day he said, "We must organise the World Drafts Championship." Well, I know nothing about drafts at all. "But we must organise the World..." "Yes, Tony." "And who's going to play?" He said, "Well, we find the best human draft player and we put him against a computer." "Yes, Tony." And we did it. We put the whole thing together in a couple of months. We got it sponsored by Silicon Graphics. It was played in a top London hotel, the Park Lane Hotel, the same one where Garry Kasparov played Anatoly Karpov for the World Chess Championship in 1986, which I also organised. And this match in 1992 between Dr. Marion Tinsley and the computer called Chinook was the first ever World Championship between a human being and a computer in any thinking sport. And I know that matches between Kasparov and Deep Blue and so on have got more publicity, but we were the first one, the first ever World Championship in any thinking sport between the human brain and the computer brain, between the silicon brain and the carbon brain. And it was quite an achievement. And that's because Tony, as you say, or as you asked, was always pushing the boundaries. You know, you come up with some ridiculous idea, and I said, "We can't do that." He said, yes, we can do it. And I ended up having to do it. So he was very much the same during an event as he was outside the event. He was hyper active, didn't like to go to sleep, always thinking of new ideas, always having 20 different ideas for books. And when he sadly passed away, almost 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years to this month, April 13th, 2019. He'd already published 140 books, translated into 40 languages, and he had 20 more books he was working on when he passed that he hadn't quite finished. And one of my goals is to get all of these books eventually into print.
Okay.
It'll take a while, but we'll get there in the end. And he had books on spiritual leadership. He'd like to be called the headmaster of the human race. And he'd written a report card on the human race. You know, how is humanity doing? I think it would be a bit more pessimistic now than it was when he started to write it, but it's almost finished, and I intend to get all of these books published so that we can continue his great canon of literary achievements.
During our live streaming today, we already saw some videos from Tony's conference, also in Paris in 2018, because this was when I met Tony for the second time, but he went to Paris in 2018, and it was pretty inspiring. What was for me very inspiring is I understood that it's not about mind mapping, it's about intelligence.
Yes.
And it's about mind mapping as a tool for thinking in the best way. What do you think about this?
Yes, absolutely true. I mean, he was very enthusiastic about the potential power of the human brain. And one of the things he liked to do was to draw a diagram of how many neural connections there are, you know, and he put a 1 down on the page, and then he'd start to write zeros, and he'd be writing zeros. You know. 10 minutes later, he'd finish writing the zeros. And that was the connections greater than the number of atoms in the known universe. And everything he did was dedicated to what he called global mental literacy. Now, you can call that intelligence, but it's also knowing how the brain works and getting the maximum out of the brain. So that could be called intelligence, IQ, fluid intelligence. It's a combination of all these things where the human brain operates at its maximum, and the mind map helps you to do this, as does being able to read quickly, as does being able to memorize effectively. And the end result is an intelligent outcome driven by the powerful tools of mind mapping, speed reading, and memory power.
Ray, we are going to meet also tomorrow with Jerome, and you are going to talk about some more different topics. I know that you just created the Council of
World Mind Sports Council.
Exactly. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is the goal?
Yes. What happened was that we had quite early on founded the World Memory Sports Council, which was designed to oversee the rules and regulations for the World Memory Championship. And of course, the World Memory Championship in December 1991 was the first of our mind sports championships that we organised together. And it occurred to me, just before I came to Zelona Gora, in fact inspired by your events, that we didn't have a rules and regulations body for mind mapping and speed reading. We had a handbook, but we didn't have a formal body. So I thought, well, the initials of the World Memory Sports Council are exactly the same as the World Mind Sports Council, WMSC.
Okay.
So with very little effort, you can convert one to the other and create the more ambitious body. And we then have an overarching single body to look after the rules and regulations with the three learning mind sports, memory, mind mapping, and speed reading. And we've got a very good team. You know who's on the team? Because you're on the team.
Yes.
And as I say, this was very much inspired by the fact you managed to put two of the championships together, mind mapping and speed reading. I thought we got to have a consolidated body. And we have great people like Professor Marek Kaspersky,
Yes.
originally Polish, as you know.
Yes, I know.
Sue Whiting, 5 times world memory champion for women. We produced 2 handbooks, one for memory, one for mind mapping and speed reading. We've got a brand new logo, wonderful new logo, designed by Professor Marek Kaspersky. And, you know, I feel that after all these years of having known Tony and founding the first championship, that finally everything is coming together. You know, it's taken us a long time. You know, we've had so many fights. You know, we've had people trying to stop us. We've had plagues. We've had wars, as I said before, storms and tempests. But I think we're coming out at the other end, and the whole thing is gradually coalescing into a meaningful global initiative. With people like Michelle and yourself and Jerome, you know, we have a fabulous team of people who can help push this into the future.
Okay, thank you for sharing all this information about Tony and about the future of mind sports. And we'll see tomorrow during the Speed Reading Championship and during your interview with Jerome. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.